So, I wasn't originally going to make this video. When I looked at the Guns and Gears remaster announcement a few months ago, I just thought, okay, they're just going to update everything to the Orc instead of the OGL, and that'll be it. It's going to basically just be a reprint with every iterance of flat-footed replaced with off-guard. But then I saw that little email in my inbox, and I saw that the remastered Guns and Gears showed up on my Paizo profile, so I thought, why not? I'll just check it out just in case there's some things I want to cover in a future video. And oh my gosh, did Gunslinger get a remaster? Hello. So, for the first time in a long time,
say the line!
Nonat.
Howdy, my name is Nonat, and welcome to my video on all of the major changes to the Gunslinger in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. You'll notice I'm not making an entirely new class guide, and that's because I'd say about 85 to 90% of the class is untouched. The Gunslinger, after all, is a perfect class because it uses fighter weapon proficiency, which just means it's perfectly balanced. But there were a few things that Paizo felt needed to change and update, and oh boy, did they make this class stronger. So come with me as we look through all of the different changes throughout the remaster of Guns and Gears involving everyone's favorite shoot bang, the Gunslinger. Do you think I'm gonna get demonetized because I technically said the word gun like 15 times in the first minute? Oh, and by the way, if you're watching this the day that it came out, Friday, then I'm live right now in the middle of our Monster Hunter Wilds release day celebration stream. If you don't know me, Monster Hunter is my favorite game franchise of all time. I've played every single game in the series, and Wilds is gonna be no exception. To celebrate the release of what's hopefully gonna be one of the best games in the franchise, we are streaming for 24 hours, starting at midnight EST, which is today, like probably 8 hours ago, all the way to midnight EST tomorrow, Saturday. So if you were watching this at all on Friday, click the link in the description, come on over to twitch.tv/nonat1s and hang out while we play some Monster Hunter. I'm super excited. I love this game and I want to share my passion for it with everybody else. And if you don't care about that at all, cool. I appreciate you listening to me ramble. Let's jump into Gunslinger. Starting off, their singular expertise feature has been completely rewritten into Slinger's precision, and it's just been an outright power-up. What was originally just a +1 to damage with firearms and crossbows and a proficiency limiter on all other kinds of weapons has turned into an even greater damage boost and a removal of that proficiency limiter. Instead of just a flat +1 circumstance bonus to damage among all crossbows and firearms, they now get +2 precision damage with crossbows and +1d4 precision damage with firearms. And now to backtrack it a little bit, because this is technically as much of a nerf as it is a buff. You see, this bonus damage only applies to non-repeating weapons. A repeating weapon is basically any weapon with a clip. You reload it and add multiple shots into it, and you don't have to reload for that many number of shots. Gunslingers no longer get any bonus damage to repeating weapons. This +2 and +1d4 precision damage are only to non-repeating crossbows and firearms respectively, which I think is a really cool call. You know, you are throwing away a lot of potential damage, but you're gaining a lot of extra actions when you use a repeating weapon. So if you can shoot 6 times before having to reload, I think it's fair to give the reloading weapon 1d4 extra damage, which is such a crazy power-up, by the way. Going from 1 flat damage to 1d4 precision is great. Additionally, it's no longer a circumstance bonus, so if you can find another way to stack circumstance damage bonus onto your attack roll, it's going to stack with your bonus precision damage. However, keep in mind, this also means that creatures immune to precision damage are immune to this, where they weren't originally immune to the circumstance bonus damage from the pre-master. I made that all sound a lot more complex than it was. At the end of the day, for 90% of gunslingers, this is just a damage increase. And then at level 13, it goes up a little bit more. Crossbows get +1 precision damage, and firearms become a 1d6 precision damage. It's not a massive scaling. In fact, it's pretty negligible at the end of the day, but hey, potential damage is potential damage. But the biggest power-up, and one of the coolest incentives to play a gunslinger right now, is this new paragraph I'm just gonna read word for word. Quote, If you are using a combination weapon whose ranged form is a firearm or crossbow, you use your proficiency with firearms and crossbows for attacks made with the melee configuration of that weapon. Now you get to use that crazy fighter scaling for both forms of your weapon, which is so cool. I've never even messed with combination weapons because they were never really worth the hassle. But now gunslingers are sort of encouraged to experiment with them because you can transfer that incredible fighter level proficiency into the melee form of your combination weapons. It's Bloodborne, baby! It's super cool. Listen, maybe I'm overhyping it. Maybe it's a lot. At the end of the day, it's just a +2 to hit with the melee configuration. But hey, I think that's super cool and super exciting. And I love that they removed the, well, you're a gunslinger, so you can't actually go beyond trained proficiency with non-guns because you're allergic to swords. So this is just super cool. I bet there's some really cool combinations you can do with this. Something interesting I've noticed going through this isn't a mechanical change, but some of the names of the class features have actually been changed. I don't know if this was a result of the OGL or if they just wanted to give the Gunslinger a little more class identity, even if it's just through flavor. Things like Evasion have been renamed into Blast Dodger. Juggernaut was made into Lead Constitution. These are class feature names that definitely fit the flavor of a Gunslinger a lot more, rather than the generic names in the pre-master. Again, I don't know if this is something to do with OGL or if they just wanted to have more fun with it. Either way, cool. Moving on to the subclass, the Gunslinger's Ways, there's a few changes here, and a very important one was an upgrade to the reloading strike for the Way of the Drifter. It's a very simple change. They simply added text. This reload does not trigger reactions. That was a huge problem with the Drifter early on, is you would attack and then take your free reload, but technically you were interacting. So anyone around you could make a reactive strike against you. But now that they've added this text here, which I think most people were playing this way anyway, because without it, the Drifter was really, really brutal because you couldn't use half of your class features if the creature had reactive strike, because you would just die. Phenomenal update. I think this is what everyone was begging for anyway, so I'm really glad they made it canon. Down at the Way of the Sniper, one shot, one kill got such an amazing quality of life upgrade. One shot, one kill, in my opinion, was one of the worst feeling features in the game, because in the pre-master, it only affected your first turn of combat. Not only that, it only affected your first strike. So even if you shot, missed, reload, shoot again, and hit, you still don't get one shot, one kill in the pre-master. In the remaster, though, that little 1d6 extra precision damage is so much more reliable, because now that 1d6 bonus damage applies to the first successful strike during this encounter. I don't care if you miss 3 rounds in a row because your dice hate you. If you hit on round 4 with that weapon, you're getting your bonus precision damage. Sure, it's only 1d6, but in the grand scheme of things, it just feels good for your class feature to do something no matter how bad you miss. Especially at low levels, it already feels bad enough not to crit as a gunslinger. But if you're playing a sniper and your dice hate you for 2 turns in a row, well hey, at least the game now has pity on you and gives you that bonus d6 precision damage on turn 3 as long as you succeeded. That's just a phenomenal change to the feature. A feature should do something, and it feels bad if you miss your one opportunity. I get it, one shot, one kill, it was for the flavor. Gameplay-wise, this feels so much better. Still in the Way of the Sniper, Ghost Shot got a tiny little upgrade in that it now has synergy with the silencer equipment. If you make your Ghost Shot with a silencer weapon, you actually stay undetected. Normally, whenever you would take the Ghost Shot, you would simply become hidden, meaning no matter what happened, people know you're there. But now, because it's a silenced weapon, you actually stay undetected. They'll probably still be on alert because a bullet just hit the ground or something, but they don't even know that you are there or your general vicinity. Really nice extra text there. The Vanguard's Clear a Path ability also got a little bit easier to use with multi-action shots. Originally, the text said you could only use Clear a Path after a strike, specifically. Not an action that contained a strike, but specifically if your last action was a ranged strike. Now the text much more clearly states that if your last action included a ranged strike, you can use Clear the Way. This is fantastic. If you use something like their level 15 Deed Siegebreaker, you can now Siegebreaker into Clear a Path because a ranged attack was part of Siegebreaker. I think that's super cool, and I really just dig the clarity there. There's a lot more things, it just makes it easier to use this ability in tandem with other feats you've taken. It always feels bad when different parts of your kit don't mesh together just because of the rules, so I think just making it easier to mix this in to your turn, fantastic. Well, you can technically always use it even if your last action wasn't a strike, but if you used the strike first, this used the same multiple attack penalty, which means, again, it's easier to weave it in and get that max attack bonus shove rather than dealing with multiple attack penalties. Now, if you want to talk about tiny, nearly inconsequential, but could potentially be relevant buffs, we can look at Living Fortification. At first glance, you might not think anything changed to this feature because it looks almost the exact same, but one thing changed. The bonus to armor class from this feature now ends at the end of your next turn rather than the start. 99% of the time, this isn't going to matter, but let's say you roll initiative, you get your AC bonus from Living Fortification, and you just have to run. You're going to take a reactive strike. Well, now you've got the AC bonus against that reactive strike. It's not worthless. Normally, in the pre-master, your turn would start, you'd lose the AC, and then you'd run away and they'd get their strike against your normal AC. Now, because that AC lasts until the end of your first turn, it's almost like getting a free Raise a Shield during that turn, except it disappears at the end. But if you're gonna have to take a reactive strike anyway, might as well get +2 armor class against it. Again, tiny, mediocre little change, but might save someone's life someday. But if you want to talk about a big change, holy cow, Spinning Crush's damage got a glow up. The pre-master, you deal 1d6 plus strength, increasing to 2d6, 3d6, and 4d6 based on your weapon's rune. In the remaster, base damage 4d6 plus strength, increasing to 6d6, 8d6, and 10d6 based on your weapon's rune. This is incredible! Level 9 dealing 4d6 plus strength to every creature adjacent to you? Get your Gunslinger Vanguard enlarged. This is like a Whirlwind Strike. It's weaker than Whirlwind Strike, but it's awesome! Level 9 on an enlarged Gunslinger could deal this to so many creatures, and I think that's just rad. They also increased the push distance by 5 feet, so now they get pushed 10 feet away. This just got a really big glow up, which is good because I think the original version really sucked. Imagine spending 3 actions to deal 1d6 to everyone around you at level 9. Moving on to class feats, most of which actually went unchanged, but I did scour these as close as I could. And you know me, no nat 1's really good at reading. I'm sure I didn't miss anything. I can't say it with a straight face. Crossbow Crackshot was actually totally changed, actually making it weaker at lower levels, but scaling to be better in the long run. Rather than a flat +2 bonus to damage rolls after reloading a crossbow in the pre-master, now you get a bonus to damage rolls equal to the number of damaged dice. It's also, once again, precision damage rather than a circumstance bonus, which means, again, if you can find circumstance bonus somewhere else, you can stack that on top of this. Additionally, they just gave it a +10-foot range, which is really, really cool. Another sort of balancing thing I guess they decided they needed to make was that this is also only the first time each round, whereas in the pre-master, you would get it every time you reloaded and shot. So if you were, say, hasted somehow, you could reload and shoot with the damage bonus, reload and shoot with the damage bonus. Whereas now, even if you're hasted, you're only getting the damage bonus once per round, but that extra 10-foot range is pretty nice, and the bonus precision damage does, quote-unquote, stack with Backstabber. Though I suppose stack is the wrong word, it basically makes it deal 2 precision damage right at level 1, but then once you have a +3 weapon and Backstabber base damage increases to +2, it actually doesn't get any better with Crossbow Crackshot. You basically just get the upgraded Backstabber damage right from level 1 if you have a Backstabber crossbow. Are there crossbows with Backstabber? I do not know the weapons inside and out, I will fully admit. It's also worth mentioning that at first glance it might seem like, oh, levels like 1, 2, and 3 before you get that striking crossbow, you're just going to be weaker. But remember, you got a flat +1 bonus to damage from the new base class feature, so it really balances out for crossbows and just makes them stronger over time. One more thing worth mentioning is that there's not really a purpose to using simple crossbows anymore, unfortunately, because crossbow crackshot no longer increases the damage die of a simple crossbow. So this could be a damage loss for some builds. Are there martial crossbows? Wait, am I making that up? Are all crossbows simple? Okay, yeah, there's the arbalest. Okay, yeah, so this isn't going to affect all builds, but it is going to affect hand crossbows pretty heavily because they are simple. Those are going to be D6s instead of D8s. Munitions Crafter, while it looks really different to the Premaster, actually works almost identically. It's just been updated because the Alchemist got remastered. Now, rather than directly getting the Alchemist class feature, it actually uses the archetype alchemy features and can only be used to make ammunition and bombs with their alchemy instead of saying they can make anything. Additionally, you get to make 4 plus half your level of items per day. So that's 4 plus half your level of bombs or batches of ammo. And that's where a really heavy nerf has come into play regarding Munitions Crafter. In the Premaster, every reagent you spent, they don't call them reagents anymore, but in the Premaster they did, every reagent made 10 pieces of ammo. In the Remaster, each one of your daily consumables only makes 4. So at level 1, if you can make 5 consumables, you can only make 20 pieces of ammo total. Which, to be fair, if you're making more than 20 attack rolls in a single day, holy cow, what's going on in that campaign? Defensive Armaments got a cool little bonus that gave them immunity to splash damage as long as they are actively parrying with their weapon. That's kind of a cool little synergy in that if you want to, you can just parry and then throw a bomb at something right next to you, and it'll splash, and you're immune to your own splash damage this way. You're not usually immune to your own splash damage. You know, you're not a bomber. That's pretty cool. You know, if you need to, if you just want to trigger a weakness because you made an acid bomb and that troll is regenerating health, well, you can parry with your crossbow for one action, draw a bomb for a second action, and just throw it at the troll. Even if you miss the troll, it's going to splash. It's going to splash on the troll, and it's not going to splash on you. Sure, you're only reducing the damage by probably 1, but it's still something. Instant Backup had its wording changed a little bit because it sounds like people might have been abusing the rules as written. You now no longer have a choice whether or not to drop your weapon. If you're going to use the Instant Backup reaction, you are dropping your misfired weapon, whereas before you could technically be just like, ah, my weapon misfired. Good thing I have this one. Whereas now you are forced to drop your weapon, and you can only draw a new firearm that used the same number of hands or less, but if you dropped your arbalest, you could pull out your single pistol. Advanced Shooter just got better. It no longer makes you pick between all advanced crossbows or all advanced firearms. It just gives you access to all advanced crossbows and firearms, which I think is just more elegant game design. It was never like an important choice to make anyway, of I guess I use firearms and not crossbows. Now being able to use either one is just a really cool ability. I like that they're homogenizing the Gunslinger's ability to use ranged weapons like this. I think it just makes sense and it feels good, and advanced weapons are cool. Give people more reasons to use your advanced weapons. They're awesome, their trait combinations are really cool, so I'm really glad they're making them easier to access in the remaster. They're still not easy and they're rarely worth it, but they're still really cool for flavor. Because of the changes to Munitions Crafter, Munitions Machinist has been completely changed and made so much better. You see, Munitions Crafter scales automatically now. It is 4 plus half your level in number of consumables per day. So now Machinist just straight up gives you the quick alchemy feature from the Alchemist. Sure, it can still only be used to make ammo and bombs, but you can still make quick alchemy. You get 4 versatile vials, which can be reconstrued and recollected the same way as the Alchemist, and that means 4 times per combat, you can just go, boom, I have ammo. You can also just throw the vials. The vials are bombs in and of themselves. Just really cool diversity in the Gunslinger class compared to the old Machinist, which was,
your level is higher. Good job.
And if you want to know more about quick alchemy and versatile vials and all of that and you haven't checked it out yet, you can check out my guide to the Alchemist in the Pathfinder 2e Remaster. I think the Alchemist is the single most changed class in the Remaster, except for maybe the Oracle, but that's up for debate. They've both been wildly made over. If you want to, I mean, you can check out the Oracle guide too. I'll put that in the corner too. Why not? You know what I'm saying? Level 10's redirecting shot got the tiniest little upgrade in that now when you use it as a reaction, it also ignores the concealment miss chance. The original DC 5 or higher, if your ally misses for any reason, you can roll for them and it ignores the concealment chance to miss entirely. Really cool. And that's all the changes to the Gunslinger class. There's one more tiny change I noticed, and it's sort of just a quality of life update for low-level characters. All firearms seem to be a little bit cheaper. You know, I think the Arbalest went from like 11 gold down to 8 gold instead, which for a new character who only has 15 gold to spend, I think that is a phenomenal little freedom for them to buy a few more flavorful items and adventuring gear and maybe an alternate weapon. Maybe they can start with 2 firearms and still some adventuring gear rather than blowing most of their money on a single weapon and being left to buy just the necessities with what's left. Overall, this remaster of the Gunslinger is absolutely awesome. It just feels good. It doesn't feel like they made the class inherently a butt-ton more powerful. Sure, they increased the base damage and turned it into precision damage, but I think that just helps the Gunslinger feel a bit better to play. As it stands, the Gunslinger, when they don't critically hit, is still going to do less damage than the rest of the classes in the game. You know, even if your Arbalest deals 1d8 and now plus 1d4, you compare that to someone with a longsword dealing 1d8 plus 4. You know, on a good roll, you might keep up with them, and that's great. It won't feel like you wasted your turn because you rolled a 2 on 1d8. Now you might roll a 2 on the d8 and a 3 on the d4. That's 5 damage. At level 1, that's respectable. It's fine. And then when you crit, you're suddenly dealing, whatever, 27. That, coupled with all of the quality of life changes and clearer text, just makes the Gunslinger an even more playable class than it was before. It has not changed my opinion on the Gunslinger in any way. I don't think it's going to change yours. Well, maybe it will. Maybe that upgraded minimum damage thanks to that extra d4 on non-repeating firearms is great. I'm sure some people are going to be a bit salty that their repeating firearms are weaker now, and that's completely understandable. That's a pretty harsh penalty for using quote-unquote automatic weapons, but maybe they were just that imbalanced with the action economy. Who knows, but I want to hear what you think, as always. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Gunslinger Remaster and what you think of the Guns and Gears Remaster. I haven't had time to check out the entire book, but I might try to in the future, especially if this video does well. And speaking of doing well, we've been doing well over on NoNat November. So if you are watching this video the day it goes live, I am live playing Monster Hunter Wilds over on twitch.tv/NoNat1s. It would mean the world to me if you just came over, hung around for a little bit, see if it's your vibe. If not, no worries at all. I just appreciate you coming over and saying hi. So that's it for me. It's damn good to be back, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. And until next time, no nat ones.